Lana Carter never imagined she'd wake up in a luxurious hotel room on a king-size bed and completely naked. But this morning, as New York sunlight filtered through sheer white curtains and stabbed into her eyes like an accusation, Lana realized she was in a situation even a creative copywriter like herself couldn't have made up. Her head pounded like a jackhammer. Her mouth was dry as if she'd swallowed an entire desert. She opened her eyes, trying to piece together fragments of the previous night, but her mind was blank like a Word document waiting for the first keystroke. "Where am I?" she mumbled, her voice raspy. Then she felt its steady breathing beside her. Her heart thudded in panic. She turned her head slowly, as if any sudden movement might shatter the universe. The man lying next to her looked like he'd been carved by gods. Tousled black hair, thick brows, a high-bridged nose, and thin lips pressed together in sleep. He was shirtless, his firm chest rising and falling, one long arm draped over the blanket as if staking a claim. Lana swallowed hard, then freaked out she had nothing on beneath the thin sheet covering her. She clutched it tighter, her eyes catching faint marks on her neck reflected in the mirror across the room. Oh God, did I just sleep with a Greek god? She tried to remember. Last night was a farewell party for co-workers at the small ad agency she just quit. She remembered the third no, fifth martini, the dancing, the sound of Mia's laugh, her best friend close by, and then a man had appeared. Deep blue eyes, a tailored black suit, a voice smooth and deep like straight whiskey. "You dance beautifully," he'd said, his smile both dangerous and magnetic. Lana, tipsy and fearless, had giggled and replied, "You haven't seen me salsa yet, brace yourself." She'd grabbed his hand, pulled him to the dance floor, felt the heat of his palm in hers. Everything after that blurred like a film reel with missing scenes. She vaguely remembered a kiss, hot, intense, as if they were trying to say something through each touch. She remembered giggling when he whispered in her ear, his voice husky with desire, being lifted strong yet gentle, and a fiery connection she couldn't describe. Then darkness. She didn't know how far they'd gone, but waking up naked and seeing the marks on her skin was enough to send her spiraling. "Lana Carter, what the hell did you do?" she whispered, her face flushed. She glanced at the man. He was still asleep, his face relaxed, lips curved slightly as if dreaming something pleasant. She swore she would never see him again. This would be a secret she took to her grave. She carefully slid out of bed, holding the blanket tight around her, searching for clothes. Her black dress was crumpled near the sofa, her underwear scattered somewhere across the floor. Blushing, she grabbed everything and began to dress, muttering, "You're a copywriter, not an actress in an adult film." She found her purse near the door and fished out her phone. Dozens of texts from Mia flashed on the screen. "Lana, where did you go? Are you okay? Call me. Don't tell me you left with that guy." Lana groaned. "Thanks, Mia. Confirmation that I'm officially an idiot." She couldn't just leave without saying anything that wasn't her style. She dug into her bag and found a scrap of paper and her eyeliner, scribbling a note. "Thanks for, whatever happened. Sorry if I was a mess. Have a good day." She hesitated, considered signing her name but decided against it. Not necessary. One night. End of story. She left the note on the table, threw on her dress, grabbed her heels and tiptoed to the door. The door clicked softly behind her as she slipped out. Lana practically sprinted down the hallway, jabbing the elevator button like it might erase her mistake. Inside the elevator, she exhaled deeply, whispering to herself, "Done. Forget this ever happened." Back in the hotel room, sunlight continued to stream through the curtains. The man opened his eyes, deep blue scanning the now empty room. He sat up, his tousled hair making his sculpted features even more striking. He picked up the note, read the eyeliner-scrawled words, and smirked. "Thanks for whatever," he murmured, voice low and amused. "This girl is a hurricane." Ethan Reed hadn't planned for the night to go that far. When Lana pulled him onto the dance floor, he had recognized her instantly, Lana Carter, the woman who gave that bold, unforgettable speech at a media conference 2 years ago. He'd let her ramble, laughed when she taught him salsa, despite nearly tripping over herself. When she kissed him drunk and blazing like fire, he hadn't resisted. That night they had collided in a passion that wasn't just chemistry, it was something he'd been waiting for. He knew she wouldn't remember, and he wasn't going to push it. Not yet. He wanted her to remember, or he'd make her fall all over again. He folded the note and tucked it into his jacket pocket. "Lana Carter," he whispered, smile deepening. "You really think a note is enough to end this?" Lana stood in front of the mirror in her tiny apartment, trying to scrub the guilt away with a mug of black coffee. She'd showered, changed, but the image of that mysterious man lingered like a tattoo in her mind. "Never more than one drink," she mumbled, though she'd made that vow at least 10 times before. She checked her phone. A message from Mia. "You alive yet? Tell me everything." Lana replied, "I'm fine, and I'm never talking about last night. Ever. She looked at the clock. Nearly noon on Sunday. Tomorrow was her first day at Sterling Edge, the media company of her dreams. She needed to forget last night and focus on the fresh start. No mysterious men, no regrets. But deep down, something felt off, like last night wasn't just a mistake, it was the beginning of something bigger. She shook her head and let out a dry laugh. "Don't be dramatic, Lana. Fate only exists in movies." What she didn't know was that across New York, Ethan Reed sat in his office, gazing at the city skyline. On his desk, the eyeliner note lay next to a cup of coffee. He took a sip, his eyes gleaming. "See you Monday, Miss Carter," he said, voice like a promise. "We'll meet again." You're watching Soul Stories, where every tale whispers of love, healing, and hope. This story is a work of fiction created to inspire, entertain, and share meaningful messages about the power of love and second chances. Don't forget to subscribe and be a part of our journey. For now, stay with us. The story is just beginning. Lana Carter stood in front of the towering Sterling Edge building, holding a steaming cup of latte in her hand, filled with determination. Today was her first day working at one of New York's top media companies, and she had sworn to make a strong impression. No more foolish mistakes like the one over the weekend. No more hazy memories of a mysterious man with deep blue eyes. Today she was Lana Carter Sharp, confident and completely in control. She took a deep breath, smoothed out her navy blue pencil dress, and checked her hair in the reflection of the glass doors. "You got this," she told herself and stepped into the main lobby. The office buzzed with energy keyboard clacks, the faint aroma of coffee, and the lively chatter of new colleagues. Lana's heart pounded not from anxiety, but from excitement. This was her fresh start, a chance to forget a 4-year relationship that had ended in heartbreak and the wild Saturday night that followed. She was led to the creative department, a colorful, open space where copywriters and designers worked side by side. Her new teammate, Sarah, a platinum blonde with a pixie cut, greeted her with a bright smile. "Lana, welcome to the team. Things are a bit intense today. New CEO announcement at 10 a.m. You ready?" "New CEO." Lana raised a brow as she set her bag down at her assigned desk. "I thought the company was doing fine." Sarah shrugged and sipped her coffee. "Yeah, but the parent company's restructuring things. They brought in some business genius like an alpha wolf type. Name's Ethan Reed. Rumor has it he's cold, sharp, and ridiculously good-looking." She winked, making Lana laugh. "And how is his looks any of my business?" Lana said, trying to sound casual, though a flicker of unease passed through her. The last thing she needed was another attractive man stirring up her life, especially after what happened on Saturday. "I just want to do my job well." Sarah nodded, but her eyes twinkled with amusement. "Just wait. He's the kind who silences a whole room with a single glance." At exactly 10 a.m., Sterling Edge's large conference room was packed. Lana sat in the middle row, notebook in hand, ready to jot down key points. She had mentally prepared herself for a stern CEO, probably some middle-aged man with a steely gaze. She scanned the crowd, looking for a spot where she wouldn't draw attention. Today was not the day to stand out. The door opened and the room fell silent. A man walked in tall, wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit. His tousled black hair, thick eyebrows, and piercing blue eyes swept over the room like a cold wind. Lana felt her heart stop, not because he was handsome, but because she recognized him. It was him, the man from Saturday night, the man she had woken up next to naked in that luxurious hotel room. "No way," Lana whispered, clutching her notebook so tightly the pages crumpled. She lowered her head, trying to make herself invisible, praying he wouldn't notice her. But she could feel his eyes sharp, penetrating, scanning the room. She dared to glance up and her worst fear was confirmed. His eyes landed on her. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips, almost imperceptible. Lana's face burned. It felt like the entire conference room could hear the pounding of her heart. "Good morning," he said, his deep voice echoing through the room. "I'm Ethan Reed, your new CEO. I'm here to ensure that we don't just survive, but lead in the media industry." He stepped to the head of the table, radiating confidence and control. But Lana heard nothing else. Her mind was spinning with questions. Why is he here? Does he remember me? She shook her head, trying to banish the image of that night. "Focus, Lana. He's your boss. Don't do anything stupid." The meeting lasted 45 minutes, but to Lana it felt like an eternity. Ethan outlined his restructuring plans, emphasizing innovation and team collaboration. Every time he looked in her direction, even if it was by chance, Lana felt jolted. She scribbled notes furiously, not even sure what she was writing. As soon as the meeting ended, she bolted up, ready to escape just like she had fled the hotel on Saturday. But Ethan had other plans. "Ms. Carter," his voice rang out just as she stood. Lana jumped, nearly dropping her notebook. She turned and saw him standing at the head of the table, hands casually in his pockets, eyes locked on hers. "I hear you're the new copywriter on the creative team," he said. "I'd like to see your campaign proposal for the new client. On my desk by tomorrow morning." Lana blinked, her mouth suddenly dry. Yes, sir," she stammered. Heads turned. Sarah winked at her playfully. Lana wanted to disappear. "He knows my name? How does he know my name?" She hurried out of the room, trying to maintain composure. In the hallway, she nearly ran into Sarah. "Oh my God, Lana, the CEO called you out on your first day. What secret are you hiding?" Sarah giggled. "No secret," Lana muttered, cheeks flaming. "Just coincidence." But she knew it wasn't coincidence. Ethan Reed clearly remembered her. That faint smile, that razor-sharp gaze, he knew exactly who she was. And that scared her. And intrigued her. That afternoon, Lana sat at her desk, trying to focus on the campaign proposal. But every time she typed, Ethan's image flashed in her mind, his blue eyes, his mysterious smile, the blurred memory of Saturday night. She shook her head. "You're a professional, Lana. Forget him. He's just your boss." Then she heard footsteps behind her. "Ms. Carter, how's the proposal coming?" Ethan's voice, deep and closer than expected, startled her. She turned to see him standing right behind her desk, holding a cup of coffee, eyes scanning her like he could read her thoughts. "I'm working on it, sir," she replied, trying not to sound shaky. Then she noticed her screen. Somehow she'd typed, "Hot but terrifying CEO." Panicking, she slammed her laptop shut, her face turning tomato red. Ethan raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Good. I'm looking forward to reading it. Don't let me down, Ms. Carter." He emphasized Ms. Carter with a tone that was both serious and teasing. Then he walked away, leaving Lana with a pounding heart and the distinct feeling that she had just stepped into a game she didn't know the rules to. In his private office, Ethan sat in a leather chair, gazing out the window. He sipped his coffee, smiling as he recalled Lana's panicked expression during the meeting. He didn't know if she remembered anything from that night, but he remembered everything. The fiery kiss, her laughter, the way she murmured in her sleep. He hadn't meant to rattle her, but seeing her flustered like a startled kitten was far too entertaining to resist. "Lana Carter," he murmured, tapping his finger on the desk. Lana Carter had survived her first day at Sterling Edge, but she wasn't sure she'd survive the rest of the week. After the shock of realizing that Ethan Reed, the mysterious man from Saturday night, was now her new CEO, she had promised herself to maintain a safe distance. She would work hard, avoid his piercing blue eyes, and under no circumstances allow herself to fall into another awkward situation. But Ethan, with his stone-cold face and dangerously faint smile, seemed to have other plans. By Tuesday afternoon, Lana was glued to her desk, trying to perfect the campaign proposal Ethan had requested. She had stayed up all night tweaking every sentence, making sure each idea was sharp and original. "You're a professional, Lana," she told herself as she typed furiously. "He's just your boss, not the guy you woke up next to, completely naked." She flushed, shaking her head to block out the hazy memory. She still couldn't recall the details, but every time she thought about that night, her heart went wild. "Ms. Carter, to the conference room now." Ethan's voice boomed from the intercom, shattering her concentration. Lana jumped, nearly spilling her coffee. Around her, co-workers glanced over with curious expressions. Sarah, her platinum blonde friend, smirked and whispered, "Called out by the boss again. You're definitely the star around here." "Some star," Lana muttered. "I just want a peaceful work life." She quickly printed the proposal, straightened her blouse, and headed for the conference room, trying to look calm and composed. But when she stepped inside, her heart nearly stopped. Ethan was already seated at the head of the table, dressed in a deep navy suit that hugged his frame perfectly. His eyes were sharp as blades. There were other executives present, but to Lana, the room faded away. Only he stood out like a spotlight was fixed solely on him. "You're 3 minutes late, Miss Carter," Ethan said, his voice low and laced with teasing reprimand. He glanced at his watch, then at her, a ghost of a smirk touching his lips. "I hope your proposal is worth the wait." Lana swallowed hard and placed the document on the table. "Yes, sir. This is my proposal for Tech Trends campaign. I believe it aligns with the creative direction you asked for." She tried to sound confident, but under his gaze she felt exposed. Ethan flipped through the pages, each turn slower than necessary. "It's clever, bold, but a little safe," he said evenly. "You're a copywriter, right? I expect something that makes clients want to stand up and applaud." Lana blinked. Applaud? It felt like he knew her, knew what she was capable of. But aside from that one night, she had never met him before. What do you mean by that?" she asked, baffled. Ethan raised an eyebrow, as if he'd slipped up, but his cool demeanor returned quickly. "Just an example, revise it. I want a final draft on my desk by 5 p.m., and this time make it groundbreaking." He emphasized the word groundbreaking with a tone that was both serious and slightly mocking, leaving Lana unsure whether to be offended or terrified. She nodded, hiding her frustration. "Understood, sir." As she exited the conference room, she muttered under her breath, "Groundbreaking? What does he want? Buy this product or the earth will explode." That afternoon, Ethan continued to ambush Lana in ways she never saw coming. He dumped a pile of surprise tasks on her, revising the presentation slides for the board meeting, drafting the internal announcement email, and fetching his latte macchiato from the cafe across the street. "No sugar, no milk, and make sure it's hot," he instructed, eyes gleaming like he was issuing a challenge. Lana gritted her teeth but did it anyway. She wasn't about to be labeled the unprofessional newbie. She returned with the coffee, placing it on his desk with the most neutral expression she could manage. "Here's your coffee, sir." Ethan took a sip and raised an eyebrow. "Not bad, but next time, ask them to stir it gently. The flavors didn't blend quite right." He looked at her with that faint smirk again, like he knew exactly how close she was to snapping. "I'll make a note of that," Lana replied with a sugary, sweet tone. Inside, she was seething. Stir gently. What am I, your personal barista? But what drove Lana truly crazy were the moments when Ethan showed up just in time to rescue her. Like when she tripped over a power cord in the conference room, he caught her before she hit the ground. His grip was firm, protective, and entirely too familiar. "Careful, Ms. Carter. I'd hate to lose a new hire to a broken leg," he said, voice cool, but his eyes unexpectedly warm. Or the time she got stuck in the elevator with a notoriously cranky coworker, and Ethan happened to walk by, manually opening the doors and peering inside like he had been summoned. "Miss Carter, do you have a habit of getting trapped in small spaces?" he asked, voice dry and amused. Lana had to resist the urge to shout, "No, I'm just trying to escape from you." The breaking point came at the end of the day, when Lana returned with the revised campaign proposal. She stood in front of Ethan's office, took a deep breath, and knocked. "Come in," his voice called out low, firm, and unmistakably authoritative. She stepped inside. He was seated behind his desk, the light from the window highlighting his chiseled features. She placed the updated proposal on his desk, striving to maintain her professionalism. "I've made the changes you requested," she said. "I added a more playful angle and emphasized social media engagement. I hope it meets your expectations." Ethan flipped through the document again, same infuriating pace before finally looking up. His eyes locked with hers. "Better," he said. "But you know what, Ms. Carter? I think you can do even more. You've got fire in you." Lana froze. "Sir, I really don't understand what you're talking about anymore," she replied, her voice slightly shaky. Ethan tilted his head, that half-smile returning, like he was weighing whether to tell her the truth. "Final version due by Friday. Don't let me down." He stood and left the room, leaving Lana behind with a head full of questions. Back at her desk, Sarah was already waiting, eyes full of curiosity. "So, did he like your proposal?" Lana collapsed into her chair with a groan. "Like it? He just handed me another tight deadline. I swear, Sarah, it's like he's playing some weird game with me." Sarah giggled. "Oh, come on, I bet he likes you. No one calls out a new employee by name that many times unless they have a reason." Lana's cheeks flushed. "No way. He's just an evil boss with too much time on his hands." But when she glanced out the window and saw Ethan walking by, chatting with another director, she couldn't deny the flutter in her chest. He was cold, sarcastic, but somehow, every time he showed up just in time, she felt strangely safe. In his private office, Ethan sat down and opened the drawer where he kept the eyeliner-scrawled note from Saturday night. He smiled, remembering the fiery kiss, her laughter, and the way she mumbled in her sleep. She didn't remember a thing, but he remembered every second. Watching her stumble through meetings, flustered and confused, only made him more tempted to pull her deeper into the game. "Lana Carter," he murmured, tapping his fingers against the desk. "You'll realize soon enough, running away isn't as easy as you think." Lana Carter entered her second week at Sterling Edge with one goal: survive Ethan Reed's maddening games. After a week of brutal deadlines, surgically specific coffee orders, and cryptic jabs about the Chicago conference, Lana made a decision. She would stop running. What happened on Saturday night had happened. Running from it wouldn't fix anything. And more importantly, Ethan hadn't mentioned that night at all. If he wasn't going to bring it up, neither would she. But that didn't mean she'd keep playing defense. She was a smart, sharp copywriter, and if Ethan wanted to play cat and mouse, he was about to learn the mouse bites back. Monday morning, the Sterling Edge office buzzed with even more energy than usual. The creative team was scrambling to prepare a major campaign for TechTrend, and Lana had been assigned to write the script for the advertising video. She sat at her desk, headphones in, fingers flying over the keyboard. But she couldn't ignore one glaring detail. Ethan Reed, her ice-cold CEO, had temporarily moved his workspace out into the open floor right across from her. Lana stole a glance at him over her laptop. He sat there in a deep navy suit, eyes locked on his screen, occasionally glancing up right at her. Every time his piercing blue gaze met hers, Lana's heart did a backflip. "Focus, Lana," she muttered to herself, resisting the urge to throw something at him. Then his voice sliced through the open space, low, steady, and maddeningly calm. "Ms. Carter, does your script highlight the product's AI feature?" She nearly dropped her coffee. "Yes, sir," she replied, trying to keep her voice neutral. "I emphasize the personalized AI capabilities as the client requested." Ethan raised an eyebrow and finally looked up, locking eyes with her. "Good, but do you think personalized is really enough to make clients stand up and applaud? Or is it just another overused buzzword?" That familiar smirk returned taunting and sharp. Lana clenched her jaw, her cheeks flushing. "I don't think personalized is meaningless when it's done right, sir," she answered sweetly, her tone layered with subtle venom. "For example, I could craft a script that makes customers feel like the product was made just for them, instead of tossing around buzzwords like some people." The office went silent for a moment. Sarah, seated beside her, nearly choked on her coffee and had to stifle a laugh. Ethan's eyebrow arched higher, but instead of getting upset, he chuckled a deep, short laugh that made Lana's chest tighten. "Well done, Ms. Carter," he said. "I look forward to reading that script. On my desk by 3 p.m. Lana wanted to scream, another impossible deadline, but she smiled and nodded. Yes, boss. And in her mind, she was already plotting her counterattack. By noon, Lana had a plan. She drafted an email to Ethan with the subject line, "Add script draft," in proper procedure. The email itself was perfectly professional, except for the subtle jabs woven in. Dear Mr. CEO, please find attached the draft of the script you requested, highlighting the groundbreaking elements you so emphasized. If you require additional revisions, such as a lighter coffee stir, for example, do let me know. She hit send, heart pounding with equal parts fear and satisfaction. Sarah peeked over her shoulder and burst out laughing. Lana, you've got guts. Trolling the CEO like that? It's not trolling, Lana said with a straight face. Just following procedure. But when a reply popped up almost instantly, she froze. Ms. Carter, the script is acceptable. However, in the future, let's keep our focus on the narrative, not coffee artistry. See me in my office at 4 p.m. to discuss? Lana blushed. He replied that fast and matched my sarcasm? She muttered under her breath. All right, Ethan Reed. You want to play? Let's play. The 4 p.m. meeting was a battlefield in disguise. Ethan sat behind his desk, slowly flipping through her script, throwing out meaningless questions just to rattle her. Ms. Carter, do you think the word partner truly inspires customers? Or is it just a dressed-up way of saying use? Lana took a deep breath and smiled sweetly. Sir, partner evokes emotional connection. But if you prefer use, I can revise it, though it might sound more like a washing machine manual. Ethan chuckled again, that low, amused laugh that lit up the room. You're good with words, Ms. Carter. I'll remember that. He leaned forward slightly, eyes locked onto hers. But I don't want a script that simply connects. I want one that stays with them. Can you do that? Lana swallowed hard. Suddenly, the space between them felt much too small. I'll try, sir, she said, voice a little unsteady. She didn't know why, but every time he looked at her like that, she felt like she was playing a game where she didn't know the rules. The coffee war hit its peak at the end of the day. Ethan suddenly appeared in the creative wing, holding a steaming cup of coffee and placing it in front of Lana's desk. Ms. Carter, I heard you're quite the coffee expert, he said with a teasing grin. Care to critique my brewing skills? Lana blinked, staring at the cup. She took a sip, poker-faced. Not bad, boss, but a little sweet. Maybe you forgot to stir gently? She winked as she tossed his own line back at him. The whole office burst out laughing, and Sarah clapped like it was an Oscar moment. Ethan raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. Instead, he simply nodded. Good, you're a fast learner. He turned and walked away, but Lana swore she saw something different in his expression this time. An actual smile. Not a smirk, not a mask, a real one. That evening, the office had thinned out, but Lana stayed behind to finish the final version of the script. She was exhausted, but she couldn't deny it. The verbal sparring with Ethan had left her both annoyed and strangely exhilarated. Don't be stupid, Lana, she warned herself. He's just your boss, a devilishly annoying one. But as she stood to get some water, she accidentally bumped into a colleague, knocking her folder to the floor. Before she could react, Ethan appeared out of nowhere, crouching to help her pick it up. Ms. Carter, do you have a habit of dropping things? He asked, voice cool, but eyes strangely warm. He handed the folder to her. Their fingers brushed. A jolt shot up her spine like static electricity. Thank you, she mumbled, cheeks flaming. Ethan simply nodded, but as he turned away, she heard him murmur softly like it was meant only for her. Be careful, Lana. I'd hate to lose a good copywriter to clumsiness. Lana stood frozen, heart pounding. Did he just call me Lana? And that tone, was she imagining it, or had it actually been gentle? In his office, Ethan sat at his desk, looking out over the glowing city skyline. He opened the drawer and pulled out the note scribbled in eyeliner from Saturday night. A small smile curved his lips as he remembered Lana's flustered glare, her quick comebacks, the way she challenged him. He remembered every detail of that night, the kiss, the laughter, the way she whispered in her sleep. She didn't remember it, but he did. And now, watching her spar back with fire in her eyes, it only made him more certain. "Lana Carter," he murmured, tapping his fingers on the desk. "You really think you can win this game? Just wait." Lana Carter had survived 2 full weeks at Sterling Edge, but she wasn't sure she could survive the emotional chaos Ethan Reed stirred within her. The teasing banter, the piercing blue eyes filled with unspoken meanings, and the way he always accidentally appeared just in time to rescue her. All of it left her both exasperated and intrigued. She had sworn to keep her distance, to stay focused on work, and to never let her heart get involved. But on Friday night, as the rest of the office lights dimmed and the final footsteps faded, Lana realized that keeping that promise was harder than she thought. She had stayed behind to finish the Tech Trend ad script, one final deadline Ethan had handed her with his signature unforgiving tone. Her eyes burned as she stared at her laptop, hair in a messy high ponytail, loose strands brushing her cheeks. The open office was silent now, lit only by her desk lamp and the rhythmic tapping of her fingers. "If you weren't my boss, Ethan Reed," she muttered, "I'd send you a 3-page email about how insufferable you are." She didn't realize she had dozed off, head slumped on her arm, fingers resting on the keyboard until something warm draped over her shoulders. She stirred, blinking into the soft scent of men's cologne. Familiar, devastatingly familiar. A navy blue suit jacket, draped over her. She lifted her head slowly, heart thudding, and there he was. Ethan Reed, standing over her, watching her quietly, eyes calm and unreadable. "What are you doing here?" Lana stammered, pulling the jacket down self-consciously. She glanced around and realized the office was completely empty. "What time is it?" "Almost 9, Ethan replied, his voice lower than usual. The edges of it softened. He leaned casually against her desk, hands in his pockets, eyes catching the glow of the lamp. "Ms. Carter," he said, "do you always nap at your desk, or were you planning to convert the office into a bedroom?" Lana shot to her feet, nearly dropping his jacket. I was just resting my eyes. I'm finishing the script, like you asked." She pointed at her screen, though she knew she'd fallen asleep before saving anything useful. Ethan raised a brow, glanced at the screen, then back at her. "Interesting, but I doubt zzz is an effective tagline for our client." He gestured at the string of letters her sleeping head had accidentally typed. Lana wanted to sink into the floor. "I'll fix it right away," she mumbled, frantically deleting the gibberish. But Ethan didn't move. He just stood there watching her with a look she couldn't quite place. It wasn't mocking this time, it was deeper, like he was searching for something inside her. Unable to stand the silence, she stood and held the jacket out to him. "Thanks for this, but you didn't have to. I'm fine." Her voice trembled, not from anger, but because his presence this close was doing things to her pulse she couldn't control. She looked up, and the question slipped out before she could stop it. "Why do you keep messing everything up?" Ethan blinked, clearly caught off guard. He tilted his head slightly, and the familiar half-smile returned, but it was different now. Softer. Realer. "Messing things up?" he echoed, his voice low. "Ms. Carter, I'm just doing my job. And you?" He stepped closer. Now only inches stood between them. "I remembered you before you even remembered me." Lana froze. "What? What are you talking about?" She stepped back instinctively, bumping into her chair, nearly falling until Ethan caught her, his hand firm but gentle on her shoulder. She looked up at him, searching for clarity in those eyes. "You mean that night?" Ethan didn't respond immediately. He released her but kept his gaze locked on hers. "You don't remember, do you?" he asked quietly. "Not the kiss, not how you laughed, not how you pulled me onto the dance floor and told me I danced like a bear." Lana's face turned scarlet. "I was drunk," she sputtered. "I don't remember anything. You should forget that night too. But wait, do you know me from before that?" Her mind was spinning. Ethan smiled, but it wasn't smug this time. It was almost sad. "Maybe one day I'll help you remember," he said, voice soft. "But for now, go home, Ms. Carter. Finish the script tomorrow." He turned to leave, but before he stepped away, he glanced back over his shoulder. "And stop falling asleep here. I'm not covering you with my jacket twice." Lana stood frozen, Ethan's jacket still clutched in her arms, the scent of him lingering in the air. She wanted to yell after him, to demand answers, but he was already gone, leaving her alone with a racing heart and the sense that she'd just scratched the surface of a secret far deeper than that one reckless night. Back at her apartment, Lana collapsed onto her couch, her brain still spinning. She grabbed her phone and texted Mia everything from the jacket to Ethan's cryptic words. Mia's reply came fast. "Lana, he's into you. Nobody puts their jacket over a coworker just because she's working late. And wait, you met him before?" Lana sighed, staring at the ceiling. She dug through her memory. She couldn't recall ever meeting Ethan. No way, she thought. If I had, I'd remember. Wouldn't I? But Ethan's words, "I remembered you before you remembered me," echoed in her mind. It didn't feel like he was just talking about that night. It felt like something deeper, older, something she couldn't name. She thought about Mark, her ex, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the vows she made never to let anyone close again. But Ethan Reed, with his smirking lips and soulful eyes, was making her question everything. In his private office, Ethan sat by the window, the New York skyline glittering before him. He opened the drawer and pulled out the crumpled note scribbled in eyeliner, the one Lana left behind that night. He smiled faintly, remembering how she'd fallen asleep at her desk, her hair tangled, face tired, but still radiant. His chest tightened. Across the city, Lana lay curled on her sofa, Ethan's jacket draped over her like a second skin. She touched the fabric, breathing in the scent, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ethan Reed, who are you? And why can't I think straight around you?" She didn't know it yet, but at that exact moment her heart had cracked open, just enough to let in the man she once thought was nothing more than a one-night mistake. Lana Carter thought she had grown used to Ethan Reed's surprises. From discovering he was the mysterious man from that night, to their playful verbal battles and the way he draped his jacket over her shoulders on Friday, she believed she was mentally prepared for all of his so-called antics. But as her third week at Sterling Edge began, Lana realized one thing. Ethan Reed always found a new way to unnerve her, and this time, he was pulling her into an emotional storm she couldn't outrun. Monday morning, the office buzzed with anticipation for the big tech trend presentation. Lana had finished her ad script, and for once, she was proud, really proud. It wasn't just groundbreaking, like Ethan demanded. It had punch, charm, and heart. She stood in front of the mirror in the ladies' room, adjusting her high ponytail and smoothing her pale gray dress. "You've got this, Lana," she whispered to herself. "Today, Ethan Reed will have no choice but to admit your talent." But the moment she walked into the conference room, she nearly dropped her folder. Ethan was standing in the corner, chatting with the creative director. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing his toned forearms. His piercing blue eyes swept the room and landed on her, with that familiar faint smirk. Lana's face flushed. "Focus, Lana," she scolded herself, sitting down and doing her best to ignore the heat crawling up her neck. The presentation went smoothly. Lana delivered her pitch with confidence, emphasizing the emotional personalization and humor of the campaign. The clients nodded, some even laughing aloud at the test footage. When she wrapped up, the room burst into applause. "Lana, you killed it," Sarah whispered. "Look at Reed's face, he's actually smiling." Lana glanced toward Ethan. He was smiling. Applauding, yes, but his gaze was locked on her, not in amusement, but with a quiet pride that sent her heart racing. "Don't overthink it, Lana. He's just doing his job," she reminded herself. After the meeting, Ethan called her into his office. She entered cautiously, clutching her folder like a shield, bracing for a round of nitpicking. But he wasn't behind his desk. He stood near the window, sunlight casting sharp angles across his face. "Ms. Carter, your script was impressive," he said, voice low but sincere. "The clients approved it. Excellent work." Lana blinked. Thank you, sir," she replied, trying not to sound too surprised. She wasn't used to Ethan complimenting her so directly. "I was just following your direction." Ethan smiled and stepped closer. You did more than that. You reminded me of the first time I saw you at the media conference in Chicago, 2 years ago." Her breath caught. She tried to recall that event, but she still couldn't remember ever meeting him. "You keep bringing that up," she said, voice trembling slightly. "Did we really meet?" I don't remember." Ethan tilted his head, his gaze deep and unwavering. "You don't remember," he said slowly, "but I do. You were on stage, presenting that bold campaign idea about emotional storytelling in advertising. You said a good ad doesn't just sell, it tells a story." He paused. "The whole room applauded, and I couldn't take my eyes off you." Lana's chest tightened. She tried to picture it standing on that stage, somewhere in the crowd, Ethan watching her. "Why didn't you say anything?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you approach me?" Ethan gave a soft, bittersweet smile. "I was going through a rough time. The company I worked for was on the verge of collapsing. I wasn't in the right headspace to start anything. But I remembered your name, Lana Carter. I told myself if fate was real, I'd see you again." Her heart twisted. There was something raw, vulnerable in his tone that made her want to both run and stay rooted. "So, that night," she whispered, cheeks heating, "it wasn't just coincidence, was it? You knew who I was?" Ethan stepped closer, so close she could feel his breath. "I recognized you the moment you pulled me onto the dance floor," he said, voice husky. "You were tipsy, radiant, and you called me Mr. Uptight Suit. I didn't plan for it to go further. But then, you kissed me, and I couldn't stop it." Lana covered her face with her hands. "Oh my God, I actually did that? I don't remember anything." She peeked at him through her fingers, half expecting him to mock her. But his eyes were steady, earnest. "You don't have to remember," Ethan said gently. "I remember enough for both of us." Then quieter, more personal, he added, "But Lana, I don't want you to be afraid of me. I want you to see me not as your boss, but as someone who's been drawn to you since Chicago." Her throat tightened, emotion rising. She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to run, afraid this would only lead to another heartbreak, but another part, the part she tried to bury, wanted to believe him. I need time," she whispered, taking a step back. "I'm not good at this kind of thing." Ethan nodded as if he already knew. "I'm not in a rush," he said quietly, but with conviction. "But just so you know, Lana, I'm not someone who gives up easily." He smiled, truly smiled, and for a moment, the room felt brighter. That night, Lana lay curled up on her couch, still holding Ethan's jacket. She texted Mia, relaying everything from Ethan's confession to the emotional mess swirling inside her. Mia responded immediately. "Lana, he's liked you since 2 years ago. That's fate. But be careful, okay? Don't let your heart get broken again." Lana stared at the ceiling. She thought of Mark, how he'd cheated, how he'd shattered her trust, and the ache in her chest returned. She was scared to open up, scared Ethan might turn out to be just another dream destined to fade. But then she remembered the look in Ethan's eyes, the way he said her name, the sincerity in his voice, and she couldn't lie to herself anymore. Her heart was already beginning to waver. In his office, Ethan sat by the window, the New York skyline glowing behind him. He smiled faintly, remembering Lana on that stage in Chicago, radiant, fierce, unforgettable. When he'd seen her again at that bar, drunk and laughing, pulling him into her orbit once more, he knew fate had given him a second chance. "Lana Carter," he murmured, tapping his fingers on the desk. "You might be scared, but I'll wait until you're ready." Still following the story? If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. Lana Carter thought that after 3 weeks at Sterling Edge, she had grown used to Ethan Reed's surprises, from the shock of realizing he was the man from that fateful night, to their flirtatious banter and the way he had gently draped his jacket over her. But as the 4th week began, a ghost from her past returned, throwing everything into chaos. Mark, the ex who had shattered her heart, walked back into her life like a chilling wind. And the distant look in Ethan's eyes afterward made her heart ache more than she was ready to admit. That Monday morning, Lana arrived at Sterling Edge feeling optimistic. The tech trend presentation had been a triumph, and Ethan had even praised her in front of the entire creative team. She still couldn't forget his words, "I remembered you before you remembered me," or the softness in his voice when he said her name. Though she was still guarded, afraid to open her heart again after what Mark had done, she couldn't deny that Ethan was slowly, quietly finding a way in. She sat at her desk and began working on a new campaign draft. Sarah, her platinum-haired friend, sauntered over and placed a coffee in front of her. "You look radiant, Lana," Sarah teased with a wink. "Is it the boss's compliment last week, or the fact that you're still clutching his jacket like it's a boyfriend pillow?" Lana flushed, waving her off. "Stop it. I'm just focused on doing my job." Still, she glanced toward Ethan's office, catching a glimpse of him in conversation with a director, confident, commanding in his navy suit. She smiled, then shook her head. "Don't be silly, Lana. He's your boss, not Prince Charming." That afternoon, a text buzzed her phone from an unknown number. "Lana, it's me, Mark. I need to see you. 5 p.m., the cafe on 7th and Main. Please." She stared at the screen, heart tightening. Mark, the man who had betrayed her 6 months ago. The man she cut out of her life after finding out he was sleeping with a coworker. She had deleted his number, blocked his socials, done everything to erase him. And yet, here he was. She hesitated, then typed a short reply. "Okay, 10 minutes, that's all." She told herself this was closure, a chance to make it clear that she had moved on. She slipped out of the office at 4:50, not telling Sarah, afraid her friend would cause a scene. The cafe on 7th was warm and cozy, its air rich with the scent of fresh espresso. Lana sat near the window, clutching her latte, tension curling in her stomach. Mark arrived right on time, tall, disheveled brown hair, eyes filled with regret. He wore a pale blue shirt, still as attractive as he was when they dated, but now carrying the weight of mistakes. "Lana," he said softly, sitting across from her, "thank you for coming. I know I don't deserve this, but I'm sorry." She tightened her grip on the cup. "Mark, you apologized 6 months ago. I made it clear we're done. What do you want?" He looked down, voice husky. "I messed up. Losing you was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I still love you. Please give me another chance." He reached out, trying to touch her hand. She pulled away. Standing abruptly, her voice sharpened. "There's no chance, Mark. You made your choice and I survived it. Don't come back now and try to rewrite the ending." She turned to leave, but he stood too, grabbing her in a hug from behind. "Please, Lana, just think about it," he whispered, arms tightening. "Mark, let me go!" she shouted, struggling against his grip. The cafe door jingled open. She looked up and her heart nearly stopped. Ethan Reed stood in the doorway, coffee cup in hand, frozen. His blue eyes, usually unreadable, were now glassy, stunned. His jaw clenched, his body stiff as he took in the sight of Mark holding her. Then, without a word, he turned and disappeared into the city crowd. "Ethan!" Lana broke free from Mark and ran outside, breath catching. But he was already gone. She stood on the sidewalk, heart pounding, the weight of what she had just lost sinking in. "Mark, get out of here!" she yelled, turning on him with fury in her eyes. Mark muttered something, but he was already retreating. Lana buried her face in her hands, tears brimming. Why didn't he wait? Why didn't he give me a chance to explain? The next morning, Ethan was colder than ever. In the Tuesday team meeting, he didn't look at her. His voice was flat, distant. "Ms. Carter," he said without inflection, "finalize the tech trend campaign report by Friday." She tried to meet his eyes, but he turned away before she could speak. After the meeting, she texted him, "Ethan, what you saw yesterday, it wasn't what it looked like." I pushed Mark away. "Please, just talk to me." No response. She called, straight to voicemail. She passed by his office. He was inside, but the door was closed, his walls up, both literal and emotional. Sarah noticed. She pulled Lana into a corner. "What's going on? Reed's been a total iceberg since yesterday. Did you two have a fight?" Lana shook her head, voice cracking. "Not a fight. A misunderstanding." She told Sarah everything from the text, to the cafe, to Ethan walking in. Sarah sighed. "Oh no, he saw the ex hugging you? Lana, he's jealous. But not the petty kind, the hurt kind. That man looked like someone just shattered his trust." Lana's chest tightened. She thought of Ethan's expression, not anger, but pain, like someone who had dared to believe in something and watched it fall apart. "I don't love Mark," she whispered, "but I hate that Ethan thinks I do." That Wednesday night, Lana sat on her sofa, clutching Ethan's jacket, the one she still hadn't returned. Her mind was a storm. Mark's apology meant nothing. It didn't shake her, didn't tempt her. It only reminded her of what she had overcome. But Ethan's silence? That hurt, because it meant something had been growing between them, and now it felt like it was breaking. In his private office, Ethan sat at his desk, the lights of New York blazing behind him. He held the eyeliner-scrawled note from that night, her silly, heartfelt goodbye, and ran his fingers over the words. But all he could see was Mark's arms wrapped around her. He had wanted to believe in fate, in second chances, in her. He opened her unread message and stared at it for a long moment. Then he closed the screen. "Lana Carter," he murmured, voice rough. "If you've chosen him, I'll let go. But why does it feel like this is the one fight I don't want to lose?" Lana Carter never imagined a misunderstanding could hurt this much. Ever since the moment Ethan Reed witnessed Mark hugging her at the cafe and walked away with that ice-cold stare, he had become a stranger. He avoided her, kept his distance like she had never existed in his world. The Sterling Edge office was still buzzing with energy, but to Lana, everything had lost its color because Ethan's piercing blue eyes no longer looked at her. Since Tuesday of last week, Ethan had confined himself to his private office. He no longer worked in the open space. Every time Lana tried to catch his eye in meetings or passing hallways, he'd turn away, his steps quick, his posture closed off, as if she were a ghost he was trying to erase. He still worked with his usual brilliance, leading projects with sharp, calculated authority, but any communication between them was filtered through his assistant, Emily, a thin woman with round glasses and a robotic tone. "Ms. Carter," Emily said one afternoon, handing her a thick file, "Mr. Reed requests the progress report on the tech trend campaign by Friday. If you need to relay anything, please send it through me." Lana nodded, clutching the folder as her chest tightened. She wanted to scream that she didn't need a messenger, that she needed to talk to Ethan to explain. But every time she knocked on his office door, Emily would appear like a gatekeeper. "Mr. Reed is unavailable," she'd say politely but firmly. "Leave a message with me." Lana felt like she was being pushed out of Ethan's world. The silence he gave her cut deeper than any words. She texted him, "Ethan, I need to talk about what happened Monday. It wasn't what it looked like. Please meet me." The message was marked Reed. No reply. She called. Voicemail. She sent work emails hoping he'd respond directly, but each time she received a curt reply via Emily. "Received. Proceed with the task." Each cold word felt like a blade. And that's when Lana realized this wasn't just about a misunderstanding. She cared about him more than she wanted to admit, and if she didn't do something, he might close himself off for good. She wasn't going to let that happen. The night of reckoning. More than a week had passed. On Wednesday night, Lana stayed late at the office, determined to wait for Ethan. She knew he usually left long after the others. She sat at her desk, glancing at the clock every few minutes, heart pounding. Colleagues trickled out. Sarah gave her a knowing smile and a squeeze on the shoulder. "Good luck, Lana. Don't let him run this time." The office quieted. Only the soft hum of the AC and the dull glow of desk lamps remained. 7 p.m. passed. Then 8. Still no Ethan. Maybe he left through the back entrance to avoid me, she thought bitterly. But she didn't move. She sat on the lounge sofa near his office, eyes fixed on his door. "You can't avoid me forever, Ethan Reed," she murmured. Finally, at 8:15 p.m., the door opened. Ethan stepped out, his gray suit slightly wrinkled, his dark hair tousled, eyes shadowed with exhaustion, but still maddeningly sharp. He froze when he saw her. Surprise flickered across his face, then vanished behind that familiar mask. "Ms. Carter," he said, voice cool. "It's late. If you need something, talk to my assistant." Lana stood up, blocking his path. She clutched her coat with trembling hands. "No, Ethan," she said, voice shaking but firm. "I'm not going through your assistant. I need to talk to you. Now." He raised a brow and tried to walk past. "I'm not interested in your personal life," he said icily. If it's not work-related, go home. His words sliced through her, but she didn't back down. She chased after him, grabbing his wrist. "Ethan, listen to me," she cried, eyes glistening. "Mark means nothing to me. He hugged me, but I pushed him away. I didn't go back to him, and I can't stand that you're shutting me out like this." Ethan stopped. He turned slowly, expression unreadable. Lana took a breath, her voice breaking. "I'm hurt, Ethan. Not because of Mark, because of you. Because of the way you look at me now. Like I'm nobody. I have feelings for you. I've fallen for you, even though I was terrified to admit it." The world seemed to still. Ethan stared at her, stunned. His eyes softened, melting from ice to something warm, vulnerable. Then, without warning, he pulled her into his arms. His lips crashed onto hers, desperate, aching, real. His kiss poured every ounce of pain and longing he'd held back. Lana kissed him back, her arms wrapping around his neck, her heart racing. Time vanished. The dim hallway dissolved. There was only the heat between them, the connection they could no longer deny. When they broke apart, both breathless, Ethan cupped her cheek, his voice hoarse. "Lana, do you know how much it tore me apart to see you with him? I thought I lost you. I thought fate had been a lie." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I didn't go back to him. I was there for closure. I'm here for you, Ethan. It broke me when you shut me out." He chuckled softly for the first time in days. His usual teasing glint returned. "You feel pain too, Lana Carter?" he murmured. "I thought I was the only one going crazy thinking you went back to that guy. Thank you for not running." She blushed and punched his chest lightly. "Don't tease me. I've been dying inside all week because of you." Then she added quietly, "And when did you see me run away?" Ethan laughed, pulling her closer. "Saturday night," he whispered. "You were drunk. You dragged me onto the dance floor, kissed me, and then bolted like a frightened kitten." Lana groaned, covering her face with one hand. "Ugh, I don't remember any of that. Why do you keep bringing it up?" She peeked at him through her fingers, mock scowling. He leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Because that was the night I knew. I couldn't lose you," he said quietly. "Lana, I'm sorry I avoided you. I just didn't know how to face what I was feeling." She hugged him tightly, resting her head on his chest. "Don't shut me out again," she whispered. "Let's face the misunderstandings together." Ethan nodded, wrapping his arms around her. "Deal, but only if you promise not to drag me onto the dance floor again. You know I'm a terrible dancer." Lana laughed through her tears, warmth blossoming in her chest. The path ahead was still uncertain, but in this moment, surrounded by silence, by breathless kisses, by the glow in Ethan's eyes, she believed they could survive anything. Together. You're watching Soul Stories exclusive to our channel. If you're still with us, drop a comment we read and cherish them all. Subscribe to support more heartfelt, original stories. Thanks for being part of the Soul Stories family. Lana Carter never imagined that one fateful night would lead her to this moment standing beside Ethan Reed, her heart racing under the gaze of his piercing blue eyes and a glittering ring waiting for her answer. After the painful misunderstanding with Mark and the cold silence that followed from Ethan, they had found their way back to each other in a passionate kiss on that Wednesday night at Sterling Edge. But Lana hadn't expected that just a month later, Ethan would sweep her into a new whirlwind, one filled with a proposal and a wedding she'd never forget. The year-end party, a defining moment. December arrived, bringing with it the festive energy of the Sterling Edge year-end celebration. The office was adorned with sparkling lights, a towering Christmas tree, and soft jazz music floating through the ballroom. Lana wore a deep wine-red gown that hugged her curves, her hair cascading in gentle waves. She stood beside Sarah, champagne flute in hand, her eyes lighting up as they fell on Ethan, dressed in a sleek black tuxedo, tall, commanding, speaking with the board members. Since that Wednesday kiss, he no longer called her Miss Carter. Now it was simply Lana, spoken with a warm, low voice that made her blush every time. Sarah nudged her and whispered, "Girl, you and Mr. Reed are burning. Look at him, he's practically devouring you with his eyes." Lana giggled, elbowing her. "Stop it, he's just, being nice." But she couldn't deny how much Ethan had changed. He still teased her about the infamous Saturday night when she drunkenly called him my tuxedo guy. But now his gaze was filled with something softer love. They had spent more time together outside work, late-night coffees, walks beneath New York's lights, and moments where he held her hand and spoke of dreams. The marked misunderstanding had been cleared when Ethan apologized for shutting her out, and Lana admitted that she had fallen for him long before. The party reached its peak when Ethan stepped onto the stage with a microphone in hand. "Everyone," his deep voice echoed, "this year has been full of challenges, but Sterling Edge has grown stronger because of all of you. I want to thank the team, especially someone who's made both my work and my life meaningful." Lana's heart skipped a beat as his eyes locked on hers. Sarah gasped beside her. "Lana," she squealed, "he's talking about you." Blushing, Lana gripped her glass tighter, trying not to tremble. Then Ethan stepped off the stage, walking straight toward her. The crowd parted, the spotlight followed him, and suddenly Lana felt as if the entire world was watching. He stopped in front of her, eyes unwavering. "Lana Carter," he said gently but firmly, "I met you 2 years ago in Chicago, and you made me believe in fate. I met you again on a crazy Saturday night, and from that moment, I knew I couldn't lose you again." He dropped to one knee. Gasps filled the room. From his pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a sparkling sapphire ring. "I once lost you because of a misunderstanding. If I don't keep you forever now, I'm not worthy of that fateful night. Lana, will you marry me?" The room fell silent and then erupted into cheers. Lana stood frozen, her hand over her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. She looked at Ethan, the man who was once her distant, sarcastic boss, the one who teased her about coffee, kissed her in an office hallway, and held her through the storm, and her heart overflowed. "Yes," she whispered, voice trembling, "I will, Ethan." He slid the ring onto her finger, rose to his feet, and pulled her into a kiss that silenced the noise, melting the world away. Lana kissed him back, arms wrapped tightly around his neck, feeling his warmth and heartbeat against hers. Sarah screamed, "I knew it!" as colleagues clapped and raised their glasses. Ethan broke the kiss and whispered into her ear, "You're still a whirlwind, Lana Carter, but now you're mine." Blushing, she lightly punched his chest. "Don't tease me in front of the whole company." She glanced at the ring, the sapphire gleamed just like his eyes, and in that moment, she knew this was only the beginning. A sweet wedding. 3 months later, on a radiant spring day in New York, Lana and Ethan were married in an outdoor garden ceremony beneath blooming cherry blossoms. Lana walked down an aisle of rose petals, dressed in a pure white gown, a bouquet of orchids in hand. Ethan waited at the end, sharp in his black tux, his blue eyes filled with wonder. As she reached him, he took her hand and whispered, "You're more beautiful than any dream I've ever had." The wedding was intimate and heartfelt, with only close friends and family. Sarah, as maid of honor, teased her nonstop about the drunk girl who conquered a CEO. Mia, Lana's best friend, flew in from Chicago, hugging her and whispering, "I always knew you'd find your destiny." Their colleagues filled the seats, clapping and smiling as Ethan and Lana exchanged vows. "Lana," Ethan said, voice low, holding her hand tightly, "I used to think fate was just a story. But after that Saturday night, I knew you were my world. I promised to love you, protect you, and annoy you for the rest of my life." Lana laughed through tears. "Ethan," she said softly, "I used to be afraid to love again. But you made me believe in fate. I promised to stand by you even when you teased me about that night for the 100th time." She winked, making him burst out laughing. They exchanged rings. Their kiss was sweet, intense, like sealing a story written in the stars. The guests erupted in applause as confetti floated through the air. "Congratulations, Mrs. Reed," Sarah shouted. Lana flushed and leaned into Ethan's shoulder, his arms pulling her close. A perfect ending. After the wedding, they spent their honeymoon in Paris, walking beneath the Eiffel Tower and laughing about their earliest days at Sterling Edge. Back in New York, they returned to work still in the same company, but now as a couple. Lana remained the sharp, witty copywriter, and Ethan, the charming CEO who now took every opportunity to make her blush in meetings. One night, cuddled together on the penthouse couch, their home now, Lana reached for a small note. "You still kept this?" she asked with a laugh, pointing to the eyeliner-written message from that Saturday night. Ethan kissed her forehead. "Of course," he murmured. "It's proof of our destiny." "And Mrs. Reed," he added with a smirk, "you still owe me a salsa." Lana groaned, smacking his chest. "Fine, Mr. Reed, but this time, you better dance properly." They turned up the music, dancing barefoot in the living room, laughter echoing into the night. From one mistaken night, they had found each other. They had weathered confusion, heartbreak, and miscommunication, and built something real. As Ethan once said, fate wasn't a joke. It was their story, and they would keep writing it together forever.